Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to tell you a ghost story based on true events that took place in a hospital in a mountainous province of northern Vietnam. This is a region famous for its indigenous people with their strange customs and their chilling spiritual tales of vampires that suck the blood of children, of elusive skin, ghosts, and even of werewolves said to be raised within homes to act as guardians. But enough talk, let's get right into the story. Night fell upon the city, turning the provincial hospital into a silent, cold block of architecture. For most people, this was a time for rest, but for Nam, a young, newly hired morgue attendant, his night shift had just begun. The morgue was located at the end of a long, deep corridor, completely separate from the life in the other wings of the hospital. The air here was always thick with a strange smell, a mixture of disinfectant and something cold and intangible that Nam could never quite describe. Tonight was his third night, and he still couldn't get used to the absolute silence of the place. Around 2 in the morning, as drowsiness began to creep in, Nam was startled by a sound. Tap, a faint, yet clear sound, echoed from the row of gleaming stainless steel refrigerators where the bodies awaited processing. Nam held his breath, listening intently. It was probably just the machinery. He reassured himself. Tap. The sound came again, this time more rhythmic, as if someone was knocking lightly from the inside. Nam's heart began to pound. He grabbed a flashlight, its trembling beam cutting a long swathe across the cold tiled floor. He slowly advanced toward the refrigerators. The sound seemed to be coming from drawer number 4. On the information slip taped to the door was a scribbled note. Female victim, unidentified. Traffic accident. Nam recalled it was the body of a young girl brought in the previous afternoon. Her body horrifically mangled. Nam's hand trembled as he placed it on the ice-cold metal handle. A part of him screamed to just leave it alone, but his professional duty and a morbid curiosity urged him on. He took a deep breath and slowly pulled the drawer open. A blast of frigid air hit his face. In the flashlight's beam, the girl's body lay there, covered by a white sheet. But something was very wrong. The sheet was not flat. It was slightly raised over the chest area, and it was vibrating gently in time with the tapping he had just heard. Nam's throat went dry. He reached out and slowly lifted the white sheet. And then he screamed, not because of the girl's disfigured face, but because of what was lying on her chest. Another hand, a man's hand, grey and stiff, was resting on the girl's ribcage. The fingers of that hand were contracting, tapping against her sternum, creating the gruesome sounds. That hand did not belong to this corpse. It had been severed from another body. Panicked, Nam slammed the drawer shut, the clash of metal screeching in the silent space. He stumbled backward, fell, and scrambled toward the door. He had to get out of here. Just as he turned his back, a new sound arose behind him. No longer a tapping. Screech. It was the sound of drawer number 4 slowly being pulled open again. But this time, he hadn't touched it. Nam didn't dare look back. He used all his strength to bolt from the room, running for his life down the long corridor. The sound of his own footsteps pounding in his ears. He felt the coldness of the morgue chasing him, wrapping around his heels. He never went back to that job. A few weeks later, an old case file was found about an unsolved crime. A serial killer with a morbid habit of severing his victims' hands. He had committed suicide after being cornered by the police, but they never found the last hand he had taken. As for Nam, years later, on quiet, late nights, he would sometimes jolt awake in a cold sweat because he swore he could still hear that rhythmic, ghostly tapping echoing from somewhere nearby. Tap. The hospital management dismissed Nam's story as a panic attack from a faint-hearted boy. They needed someone to fill the empty position, and Hung, a middle-aged man who had served in the army, took the job. Hung didn't believe in ghosts. To him, the dead were just corpses, nothing more. For the first few weeks, everything was peaceful. Hung performed his duties mechanically and efficiently. He cleaned the morgue, received bodies, and kept records. The silence of the place didn't bother him. On the contrary, it brought a sense of tranquility. He silently scoffed at the young man, Nam, who had fled from such foolish fears. But then, one night, while engrossed in a newspaper, Hung heard it. Tap. The sound was very soft, blending with the hum of the air conditioner. Hung lowered his newspaper, listening silence. He must have misheard. He shrugged and continued reading. Tap, tap, clearer this time. It was coming from the refrigerators. Unlike Nam, Hung felt no fear. Annoyed, he stood up, assuming one of the drawers had a loose latch. He walked along the row, checking each one. When he reached number 4, he felt a draft of air distinctly colder than anywhere else. He tried to push the drawer door. It was locked tight. Strange, he muttered, that the tapping didn't return that night. But other strange things began to happen. Metal instruments would suddenly fall to the floor without anyone touching them. Sometimes, Hung felt as if someone had just brushed past him, leaving a trail of cold air. Meanwhile, Nom's life had become a living hell. He lost weight rapidly, his eyes perpetually circled with dark rings from sleeplessness. The tapping haunted him relentlessly. It echoed from inside his closet, from under his bed, from behind the bathroom door. He began to see shadows flit past, the corners of his eyes, shadows in the shape of a gaunt hand. One night, as he was trying to drift off to sleep, Nom felt something cold touch his ankle. His eyes shot open, and he stared in horror at a grey hand gripping his leg from under the bed. He screamed, kicking wildly. The hand vanished, but its icy touch lingered on his skin for a long time. Back at the morgue, Hung was growing increasingly uneasy. His skepticism was beginning to waver. While cleaning out old files, he stumbled upon the record for drawer number 4. The girl's body had been identified by her family and buried. But what about the hand? It was noted as unidentified evidence and stored separately in a small metal box in the storage room. Curiosity got the better of him. That night, Hung decided to open the box. Inside, the grey hand lay motionless on a cloth lining. It looked completely normal, just a dead body part. But as Hung went to close the lid, the hand's fingers suddenly twitched, clenching into a fist. Hung jumped back, dropping the box. The hand fell out, landing on the floor. And then, an unbelievable sight unfolded before his eyes. The hand began to move using its fingers as legs. It flipped itself over and began to crawl across the floor, heading straight for Hung. The scream of the tough old veteran finally broke, shattering the morgue's silence. He scrambled to escape, but the hand moved with terrifying speed. It crawled up his leg, its ice-cold fingers tightening around his ankle. At the same moment, many miles away, Nam was curled up on his bed. He no longer heard the tapping. Instead, there was a voice, a cold whisper, echoing in his head, repeating a single sentence over and over. I found ... you ...